Good morning and welcome everyone to the final series, the final breakfast in our series for WorkSafe ACT's breakfast series. It's just been fantastic. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people as traditional custodians on the land we're meeting on today and recognise any other people, families with connection to the lands of the ACT and region. I also wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of this city and this region. I'd also like to acknowledge and welcome other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be attending today's event. My name's Lish Fayer. I work at ABC, but I've been doing these breakfasts for the last couple of years, and gee, I have learnt so much about work health and safety. It's so not about lifting boxes. I'm probably the only person in sort of vaguely business wear today. It's great to see you all out this morning. These breakfasts have been extraordinary in terms of not just getting the message out about work health and safety and the work that WorkSafe ACT do, but it's all about the people that are building this city. And you don't have to go far around here to notice that we are building a big city. It's in a boom. And looking after everyone on site is of paramount importance. So whether you're a builder, a tradie, a subbie, in the business of how do we do that? Now today we're specifically looking at asbestos and silica dust. Now, dust, it seems so benign, doesn't it? But it's been around for a long time, and there's been legislation around for a long time to protect people from dust. I think silicosis was around before asbestosis in the 1920s. And occupational disease and looking after people from occupational disease is so important. So that's what we're going to focus on today, toxic dust and protecting you all, us all. So, kick it off. Before we start though, we do have a recording happening in the back there. Please be aware of that. We're going to distribute that widely in the future, so please reach out to a team member should you have any concerns about filming of the event. And it also may contain graphic descriptions of injuries, other potentially upsetting or triggering content, so attendance or participation discretion is advised. So please prioritise your mental health and seek support if necessary. There's also a few little housekeeping bits. The loos are out the door that you came in and then back into the hotel. And we will be eating breakfast. That's the title of the whole series, breakfast. So please eat. Don't hold back. There's the tiers of pastries, fruit. Breakfast will come out. Help yourself to tea and coffee. Just please eat as we speak. We've got a question for the panels. Sorry, there will be questions for the panel following the three speakers giving a 5-minute chat. If you want to ask a question, there's a Slido QR code. Please just scan that, type your question in. It's a triage system, so if you don't have a question but you like someone else's question, vote that. That'll float up to the top. These are the questions that we will be asking the panel during the question Q&A, so please make the most of that as they're speaking. Okay, let us kick it off. Welcome, Minister Pedersen, for joining us this morning. Lovely to see you, and so many of you. Now, Jackie Agius is our Work Health and Safety Commissioner and Labour Hire Licence Commissioner here at WorkSafe ACT. She's got a wealth of experience in workplace health and safety and brings invaluable expertise to this discussion. She spearheads initiatives, ensures compliance, promotes safety. She is the full bottle. So please give a big round of applause for Jackie Agius.
Ewan, good morning. Lish, thank you for your acknowledgement of country. I extend that acknowledgement to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people present. WorkSafe ACT events are safe events. We welcome everyone here. This is an inclusive and a respectful workplace and environment If at any time you require assistance, please seek out a member of the WorkSafe team to assist you. I welcome Minister Pedersen. I welcome ACT government employees and representatives. I welcome the construction industry, and I thank you all for joining us this morning to discuss this very important issue. I introduce to you, if you don't already know, Gillian Geraghty from Infrastructure Canberra, who will join me on the panel this morning, and also Ewan, who is from Heart of Australia, and he'll speak about the amazing work that they do in relation to both prevention and treatment of lung diseases. I'd like to start by launching this morning, and you'll see just on your tables, on your side plates there, our pocket guide to safety in construction. Please take the time this morning to have a flick through. We are really proud of the work that we've done in relation to releasing this pocket guide. But in particular, I would like to thank Frank Kasia. Frank is the leader of our communications and engagement team, and I know that he was sweating on getting this ready to be released to launch this morning, so much so that he took a trip late yesterday to the printers to pick it up. That's kind of how close it was. We hope that it assists you in keeping your workplace safe. We do want feedback, both negative and both constructive and positive, and are open to making changes as we run through the different print runs. We've all heard the terms crystalline silica and asbestos. One is part of our present, and one is a legacy of our past. Both are silent, both are deadly, and both demand our full attention. They're part of the everyday language of construction in the ACT. But what does it really mean for work health and safety in our workforce? I'll leave the deeper dive into the medical impacts to Ewan from Heart of Australia, who brings clinical expertise to this conversation this morning. But what I want to focus on is where these risks are more likely to be found, whether it's in new builds, renovations, commercial developments or residential sites, and what that means for how we manage them on the ground. So let's look at the facts. I'll try and remember the slides this morning, although it's pretty early. I have a new pup who is 5 months old and normally sleeps in till about 8 o'clock. This morning when I got up at 5 o'clock, I took him out to the toilet, and a couple of minutes later went out just to check on him, and there he was asleep, curled up in the backyard, and I wanted to join him, I have to admit. Those of you who have been coming to these breakfasts know I am not a morning person. Silica is found in concrete, bricks, tiles and engineered stone. Materials used daily in new builds, although we now know engineered stone has been banned. Asbestos was banned in Australia in 2003, but it's still present in many homes and buildings constructed or renovated before 1990. It has been used in over 3,000 products, including insulation, roofing and wall sheeting. It may surprise some of you that we still get reports of products containing asbestos being imported into Australia. And that's something that when it occurs, we do put out alerts. So if you're not on our subscription list and getting our alerts, please make sure that you do that before you leave today. Both substances, asbestos fibres and crystalline silica dust, can have microscopic particles that are invisible to the eye. This makes them especially dangerous when disturbed during construction. In the ACT, recent research shows that there are still gaps, believe it or not, in education and awareness. In fact, I was at a federal meeting earlier this week, and someone in the meeting said, "I have no problem drilling in asbestos. I do it all the time. I'm going to be dead in 20 years anyway." With no absolute thought for anyone else that works in the construction industry or any members of the public that are walking past. In the 24-25 financial year, WorkSafe issued 24 infringement notices of $6,000 for breaches of the duty to train workers in relation to crystalline silica awareness. More than half of those were from businesses outside of our jurisdiction. So there's good news for us in the ACT. We're ahead of the game. We're doing really well. And our construction industry has taken the opportunity to purchase new tools, see what's available, and are working really hard to ensure that not only their workers on sites, but our public and our community are protected from the risks associated with exposure to crystalline silica. We all know that there is a legal obligation to ensure that workers may be exposed to silica, and there are some declared occupations who we need to ensure that those people are trained. The training covers a number of things, including health risks of silica exposure, safe work practices to minimise exposure, use of protective equipment and controls, and of course ventilation and wet cutting, and emergency procedures for reporting requirements. A little bit of a comparison between silica and asbestos. So the source of silica is found in concrete, bricks, tiles and engineered stone, and indeed natural stone. Asbestos found in insulation, roofing, fireproof materials and pre-1990 buildings. The exposure pathway is inhalation of airborne fibres. And when it comes to asbestos, the most breaches we find are in your renovations, in those brownfield sites where you have bathroom renovations, laundry renovations, kitchen renovations. It may surprise you that WorkSafe are currently investigating about 8 PCBUs for failure to manage the risks associated with asbestos. It blows my mind that we're still talking about asbestos and managing the risks of asbestos, and I know that it blows your mind too. And why does it matter? It matters because the illnesses that are caused by silica and asbestos exposure are incurable. They unfortunately also have a long latency period where symptoms may not appear for between 10 and 30 years, depending on what the exposure to the substance is and how severe the exposure to that substance is. Nationally, we know that over 83,000 future silicosis cases are projected. Thankfully, in the ACT, because our industry has taken both exposure to silica and exposure to asbestos really seriously. It is not so dire, but we're looking at those other jurisdictions and how many cases we're seeing in those other jurisdictions, and we're cautious about where we may end up here in the ACT. Asbestos exposures are linked to mesothelioma, asbestosis and lung cancer, and these diseases contribute to approximately still 4,000 deaths in Australia each year. So 4,000 deaths in Australia each year caused by diseases linked to exposure to asbestos. When we talk about managing the risks, Compliance includes a number of things. It includes those risk management things that we all know. Firstly, let's identify and manage asbestos risks before they begin. That's what work health and safety is all about. It's about prevention. It's about managing the risks. It's about stopping the exposure before it occurs, not taking a reactive stance. I can see some of my inspectors in the room this morning who are always here and happy to support during these breakfasts, and they come back to the office and tell stories about, exposure to dry cutting that they're seeing in workplaces, and I, as a PCBU, also need to manage the risk to my workers and my employees when they're going out to these sites, and so we have a number of controls in place as well. Lish has already mentioned that this is our last industry breakfast for the year, and I want to take this opportunity to thank the communications and engagement team. They have excelled in the work and continue to excel in the work that they do to ensure that we're getting messages out to our industry, not just for construction, but for all workers in all workplaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Pretty alarming stats. Those 4,000 deaths from occupational or from lung disease or respiratory-related diseases every year is extraordinary. Gillian Geraghty is our next speaker. Gillian is the Director General and ACT Chief Engineer of Infrastructure Canberra. Man, she has a job on her hands. She's responsible for the Territory's infrastructure program and property portfolio, and it's basically the building boom portfolio. I look at what's happening in this city and she is the top of the tree of managing all of that and the people, but she comes with an extraordinary track record from Newcastle, managing infrastructure and property projects there. She is really passionate about enabling great teams, creating a culture of safety, respect, kindness across all those areas, and she's a huge benefit here to our ACT. So please give a big warm welcome to Gillian.
Thanks, Lish. Thanks for that kind introduction. It is a pleasure to be here, and I really want to thank WorkSafe ACT for these breakfasts and certainly the approach that you've taken to talking about safety in the ACT. I think you set the benchmark for how it should be approached nationally, so well done. So from my perspective today, I'm really going to talk about a little bit of Infrastructure Canberra and what we do and how we approach safety. I will start by acknowledging country. Liz has already done that, and the responsibility of delivering planning and delivering infrastructure in the ACT on country, on Ngunnawal land, we take with a great deal of responsibility, and I will acknowledge that it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So the topic today is very pertinent, and I think for us it is something that we think about every day. Certainly a lot of the buildings we have to work in that have probably got asbestos in them, and how do we work with silica is an ongoing subject. For me personally, I've worked in the industry for about 30 years. I actually grew up with my father, who was a residential builder, carrying bricks for him. I've firmly believe that my arms are actually longer than the normal people because I've carried so many bricks for him. He is now suffering Parkinson's disease up in Maitland, so I constantly think about him and what he did and what his career meant and where he is now from a health perspective. So I thought Infrastructure Canberra, so we are delivering the ACT's most ambitious infrastructure program. Our vision is to enrich and connect our communities through sustainable and transformative infrastructure places and spaces. Canberra is going through a boom, and we are very, very honoured to be actually lead that. Our purpose, we have an $8 billion remit. Our span of infrastructure lands goes from hospitals, schools, the new 2,000-seat Lyric Theatre, a housing program to deliver new public housing at new 1,000 homes by 2030. The list is endless. We have in the order of about 55 projects. We have 800 people. We have 230 assets in terms of our properties. So what our impact on our territory is huge, and we take that responsibility very, very thoughtfully. And importantly, what we do is also have an opportunity to set the expectations on what safety should be for our industry. So at Infrastructure Canberra, work health and safety is integral, and it's integral in the way we talk about things. It is about how we successfully procure and deliver infrastructure projects that will help Canberra be one of the world's most livable cities. We prioritise it as a safety-first culture, one that empowers us to deliver value for money outcomes in a collaborative way with our partners for our community. We are committed to working closely with our partners and ensure that we have safe outcomes for our workers and on all of our projects and our properties and in our office space. Our guiding principles include that safety is everyone's responsibility. We look out for each other. We ensure that our staff, our partners and members of the community get home safely. We mitigate, respond and report risks. Our performance is pretty good. Not still issues, but we're doing all right. The data shows that government construction projects, and in particular residential construction projects, are consistently delivering safer outcomes. I'm cautious about saying this, but I'm going to do it anyway because Jackie, WorkSafe ACT has told us that we've got strong performance, we've got lower notifiable incident rates and improved compliance outcomes. So we're doing okay. There's no doubt we could do better. But we do put this performance down to strong collaboration, our commitment and cooperation with industry, the ACT government and importantly WorkSafe. We have a comprehensive pre-qualification, procurement and contract management program with WHS at its core and with a focus on continuous improvement and best practice. Our proactive auditing program, Active Cert or Active Certification, that we all call it Active Cert, assures safe work practices and being implemented effectively. It does promote and reinforce key legislative changes affecting industry, including the management of silica and psychosocial hazards. Collaboration with industry groups has led to improved procurement processes that deliver stronger project-specific safety responses and outcomes, as well as better support for the local industry. This pocket guide is awesome, and so well done to Frank and Peggy and Jackie, and Infrastructure Canberra is going to do an extra order of this so that we can get these around our sites and make sure that everyone's got access to this really great tool. So one of the things I'm really focused on is continuing to use our success to motivate ongoing improvement and innovation in safety, both physical and psychosocial. I'll talk a little bit about psychosocial. It's going to go off topic a bit, but it's one of my passion topics. We know that from the National Construction Industry Forum, that their draft blueprint for the future, that 59% of construction workers are dissatisfied with their work-life balance, 29% of women experience workplace harassment, and only 14% of the workforce is female. In Infrastructure Canberra, we're really focused on this and we're actively addressing it through embedding the culture and construction standard into all of our projects in consultation with industry. It is built around three areas: time for life, which encourages work-life balance. I have to say my team tell me I'm a little bit of a hypocrite on that one, but anyway, we'll get there. Wellbeing, prioritising mental health, psychosocial safety and workplace support, diversity and inclusion, and recognising that a diverse workforce improves decision-making and innovation. And I must admit, it is really nice standing up here looking across and seeing what a diverse participation that is here today. So the ACT government has committed to adopting this standard across all of our projects, and within 12 months, all of our procurement processes will ask for our delivery partners and design partners to demonstrate how they will support work-life balance, how wellbeing is embedded into their site culture, and how they will support diversity and safety in their teams. It is a non-compete for us. One of the other things we're doing is talking about skills and ensuring that we've got a sustainable skills pathway for the future. we have an opportunity with the current infrastructure boom to really try and improve the sustainability of a skilled construction workforce. We know that we require new approaches to workforce development, partnerships with education providers and targeted upskilling, and we're creating what's called the Pathways Hub. This will be a government-led social procurement initiative designed to connect people from underrepresented and disadvantaged backgrounds with long-term infrastructure careers. We want the ACT government to be a leader in this space across Australia. This hub will have a life beyond any one project and will develop long-lasting relationships with industry associations, training providers, social enterprises and construction firms. We look forward to talking more about this initiative by the end of the year. With that, thank you for your time. Please continue to enjoy your breakfast. Thank you if you're working on Infrastructure Canberra projects. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for what you're doing. And my door remains open. My EA doesn't like it, but my door absolutely remains open. I'm passionate to understand how we can do things better and how I can personally make sure that you and your partners and your colleagues go home safely every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. I can see you are up to your eyeballs, and no wonder the work-life balance is a bit out of whack, but I can only hope you get that under control. Our next speaker is Ewan Wylie. He's the Head of Operations and Business Development at Heart of Australia. Heart of Australia is a specialist mobile healthcare program that services all of the remote parts of Australia, Queensland in particular, goes out to the middle of those places where there is silica dust, toxic dust, everywhere dust. And you take the healthcare to where it's needed, because that assessment program is absolutely essential. He has over 19 experience in delivering these health programs. He's a respiratory scientist and has been working in this area for so long. He really found a passion for it. We're working with workers and helping both take the healthcare to where it's needed, but also help them understand the risks and educate people more about those risks. So please give a big warm welcome to Ewan Wylie.
Good morning, all. I might not have slides on here. Okay, that's okay. I can talk. My name's Ewan. I'm a respiratory scientist by background, Head of Operations and Business Development at Heart of Australia. I started working as a respiratory scientist in 2004 with the Workers' Compensation Dust Diseases Board of New South Wales. So my work there was involved in assessing people that are applying for compensation for dust diseases, monitoring those that had known dust diseases for progression, and also delivering lung screening programs for industry. During my time there, I also managed healthcare services for those affected by dust diseases. Back in 2004, most of the dust diseases we were seeing were asbestos related, but we were seeing a handful of silicosis cases coming through each year. Most of those cases would be someone in their 40s, but typically 50s plus. Typically they'd worked with silica generating activities for at least 10 years, but more likely to be 20 plus years. And typically they talked about not really wearing respiratory protection or wearing it only when it got visibly dusty, which isn't enough to protect people. So a little bit of background for the Workers' Compensation Dust Disease Board, which Lish kind of alluded to a little bit earlier. It was actually set up in 1926 as the Silicosis Board to compensate Sydney's construction workers doing civil excavation in sandstone from silicosis, because they were developing these diseases, and by the time it became apparent, often their employers and their insurances were no longer around to support them. So this isn't a new issue, silicosis. It's been around for a long time. In 2015, we kind of saw a huge explosion in the number of cases from engineered stone that stonemasons were working with, and their exposure profile was extremely different to what we'd been typically seeing. They were having these huge exposures that, to be quite honest, in the first year or two of doing that dry cutting in those factories, they were having more silica exposure than a miner would have in 100 years of tenure. So we saw these diseases develop very, very quickly and have a completely different profile. 2021, I moved up to Heart of Australia, and we soon after launched the world's first mobile screening service with a CT. That was funded by Resource Safety Health Queensland to support the screening and early detection of black lung and silicosis in Queensland's mining industry. That program has been funded, is funded to screen current workers, but also retired workers. So as I kind of alluded to earlier, most of these diseases, they develop after an accumulation of dust over a number of decades potentially, and they often become apparent later in life. So most of the ones that we diagnose are actually going to be towards people's ends of the career or after they leave industry. With that program, we've now travelled to probably, I know it's over 90 different locations, screening on sites, but also screening in communities and getting the retired workers to come forward. We've screened over 1,200 retired workers from the mining industry in Queensland, and this is the number that probably should really get everyone's ears perked up. We're finding about 1 in 7 of those workers affected from a respiratory hazard during their work career. So it's not just a maybe, it is going to happen. The likelihood of these diseases occurring, if we accumulate that dust, it is going to happen. Sorry, without the slides, I'll just get my train of thought again. So the graph that I did want to show was the different types of dust diseases we're finding. So as Jackie alluded to earlier, it's not just silicosis. Silica can also cause COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, where the airways are affected. It can cause lung cancer. It can cause autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and others, and also can cause kidney disease. So across those programs, we've now diagnosed about 200 workers with occupational diseases. About 2/3 of those are actually been COPD and airways diseases. About 1/3 of those have been the fibrotic type diseases like silicosis, black lung, mixed dust pneumoconiosis. We've been having about 5% roughly, or a little bit less of those, have been occupational lung cancers. So when we look at these mine sites, we're typically looking at people with exposures potentially to asbestos, silica, coal, which isn't so relevant for the breakfast here this morning, welding fumes, diesel exhaust particular, and these respiratory hazards are fairly similar to construction industry. Some reflections from my time working in screening and working with people affected by these dust diseases. One, that we've known about this for a really long time. This is not a new issue that just came about 10 years ago. We've known about this in Australia for well over 100 years. Back in 1938, there's a YouTube video of this, but the Department of Labor in the US released a report on preventing silicosis, and it really came down to 3 key measures. One, utilising water to minimise how much dust actually gets in the air. 2, using exhaust extraction to minimise the amount of silica that's in the worker's breathing space. And 3, using respiratory protection to minimise any of that silica that's left in the air getting into the lungs. Those 3 measures are still how we need to manage silica, and we need to implement them better. I think my kind of experience of working with people affected and people at industry doing the work is just and I just want to kind of acknowledge, I think the silica training that's happening here is the key to this, is a lack of awareness and understanding on the likelihood of developing these diseases, the consequence of developing these diseases, and what are the actual activities I'm doing that might cause these diseases. If you fail to recognise any one of those, you're probably not going to manage the hazard appropriately. Last kind of just thought is I'd love to be, and I think we're decades away from it, at a point, and we've seen the projections on future silicosis cases, I'd love to be at a point where we'd eliminated these diseases. To convince me that the work practices we are doing have eliminated these diseases, we need not only to do the health checks on the workers, we need to do the health checks when people have finished their work, when they're 60 and they're 70 and they've been out of industry. And when we can demonstrate that those people have no evidence of lung disease, then I think the job's done. Thank you very much.
Now, please scan the Slido, ask your questions throughout it. They're all anonymous as well, so you can put your name to it, but they're anonymous, so feel free to ask a frank and fearless question of our guest today. So many interesting things raised. Jackie, I might start with you. You do a lot of compliance checks now. It was about education and awareness, and now compliance checks. What do you think it is that challenges people to comply with the regulation and the Work Safety Act and just look after their workers and themselves?
Firstly, can I say that the one thing that everyone in this room has in common is the fact that we all believe, understand and want safe workplaces. And I think we need to focus on those similarities rather than what our differences are, because we are the regulator. And as the regulator, that means we're there to make sure that industry is complying with the regulations and the legislation. There are many reasons for non-compliance. Some of it can be to do with old habits dying hard. Some of it can be about people wanting to do things quickly. Some of it is definitely about education and awareness, which is why our government in the ACT has mandated silica training for a whole lot of prescribed workers in the ACT, including cleaners on construction sites. We often just think about the tradies who are doing the work, but then we have a whole lot of people who are exposed to or can be exposed to dust on construction sites, your admin people, your people who are coming in and doing your cleaning, your people who are coming in and delivering your products. There is so much exposure, but there's no one reason for people not complying, rather it's a list of many reasons.
And likewise, if anyone has anything to add or their own experience, you can add it to the Slido as well. So if you've seen particular reasons or you think there's a reason why people don't comply or ways that we can enhance compliance. Let's kick off the questions now that they're up on our screen. How do you encourage young workers to report hazards or unsafe behaviour?
Can I start with this one? At WorkSafe ACT, we have a vulnerable worker inspector who's here, actually, Heather. She's got a hand up over there. Heather's been doing lots of outreach work with young workers, going into RTOs, into CIT, and speaking to young workers about the need to report. One of the most important things in relation to safety is reporting. What we know about young workers is they're often fearful of reporting hazards and risks. They're scared of losing their job, which is a real fear in our pressured society. And so it's on all of us, the leaders in this room who understand safety, to say to our young workers and encourage our young workers to speak up, because they are our future workforce. And if we injure them now when they are young, our industry, the construction industry, will not have a future. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we have mechanisms in place to support our young workers in workplaces.
Does anyone want to add anything there?
Probably just a really minor add, and I think a big part of this is workplace cultures that are set and the tone. And I think we'd all in the room agree that it's positive to empower young workers to be able to put up their hand, ask a question, make a note for their own development, but also for the whole organisation's performance.
Yeah, for me it's all about culture and making sure that you've got a culture where people are empowered to make comments, to give feedback. Feedback is a gift. So, and I think Jackie's absolutely right. It's our responsibility as leaders to pick up the young person and walk with them on site, tell them what you're seeing, so that they know what to look for, and how they can then. They can only do what they can see. So if you exhibit the behaviours, if you exhibit how to report hazards, how to demonstrate what good looks like, then they'll know be able to do that for themselves.
I wonder if it changes depending on the size of the company. That next question as well. Do you see more WHS reported incidents on residential or commercial sites?
Yes.
More
Absolutely.
on residential?
More on residential. It's absolutely the case. And all of us in the industry know it. And I have had conversations with people in commercial construction who say to me they pick up workers from residential and they have to retrain them right back from the beginning on safety because the standards are very different. It can be because you have lone workers, it can be because you have small businesses, it can be because you have a lot of new entries into the residential construction industry. What we do see in residential construction is that those companies that are members of associations do safety better because their associations support them. So it's not everyone in residential, but it certainly is one of our biggest concerns.
I just met someone who was safety for Mantina, and maybe there is that process and a little bit of anonymity in a bigger organisation when you're on a commercial construction site. Is that part of it too, that there is a bit more reporting around the hazards if you're a little bit removed, not having to raise your hand amongst on the residential construction site with your boss?
Yeah, it's partly to do with size, it's partly to do with cost pressures, it's partly to do and can be that there are lots of family businesses in residential construction, and we often rely on our families and who are working for us and treat them differently to the way that we treat a worker who isn't our family. We have different expectations of our family than we do of people who we employ that are not our family. But again, Lish, we could list all of the different reasons for why this occurs, but ultimately it shouldn't be.
Yeah. We're here to try and stop it from occurring. This dry cutting one, it's so prevalent. It says we were just engulfed in a cloud of dust from another trade. How can you report excessive dry cutting? Yeah. It's all coming to you, Jackie, here, and I think too, perhaps Gillian.
It may surprise some of the people in the room that the ACT community is well versed on dust emanating from construction sites. So the ACT community actually report to us when they see dust coming from construction sites, and they take photos and they send them through to us, and our inspectors get out there really quickly. So when we know about it, we're out there and we do something about it. We do infringe. It's a $6,000 fine for dry cutting materials that contain silica. So in the ACT we have a broader definition. We talk about silica containing materials, not just engineered stone, and our inspectors take it pretty seriously. I was actually out at the MBA Safety Fair yesterday, and there was a tool company there that I won't talk about, won't name, who their vacuum cleaner, HVAC vacuum cleaner, with all of these attachments that you can put over drills and you can put over grinders, and it was absolutely fantastic, the technology now that exists for controlling silica. The VAC is $2,000. You get $1,000 back because of the federal government subsidies, much cheaper than a $6,000 infringement.
Did you say the vacuum cleaner was $1,000 and you get $1,000 back?
No, $2,000 and you get $1,000.
2,000. Did you see? Okay, so it's a bit like you were saying.
And the attachments are like $40.
I think she's got a new role
Sorry.
as a salesperson.
No, I'm going to go and work for that company because I was so impressed with their products.
But removing dust from the air we're coming up into our hot, dry summer. Dust is everywhere. I think when I was looking at the history of silicosis, you'll be able to correct me, but they had a levy. In the 1920s, they introduced a levy, so the more dust you produced, the more money you had to pay. Am I right?
The New South Wales Workers' Compensation Dust Disease Board was run off a levy that was based industry-based. What that industry was kind of causing in disease would be relevant to the size of that levy, but I think it was kind of 4 levels.
Yeah.
But every employer paid a levy, and which meant that every New South Wales worker had some coverage.
Is all dust, like when people go past a big cloud of dust and they contact WorkSafe ACT about the dust, is all dust equally bad?
In terms of an incidental exposure like that, asbestos is a chalk and cheese difference. We know that can cause significant mesothelioma from very small exposures. It's much more likely to be a worker that's worked with it for a lifetime, but we know that from small exposures we can still get very significant diseases. For silica, we're expecting it to be, and historically it's been from an accumulation over a long period of time. But that dust isn't just a single dust. And a lot of the kind of research at the kind of molecular level are looking at what is made up in these dusts. It's a whole barrage of different things that interact in the lungs. And when I come back to the kind of stuff in the mining, most of these miners have got a multitude of exposures all happening concurrently and interacting with each other. So anything that's not normal fresh air that we evolved to breathe shouldn't be going in the lungs, essentially.
New South Wales recently introduced a silica work register. Is ACT looking to implement such a register? And if so, how do we tackle the issue of over-reporting? Who wants to take that one on?
We're not at this stage, and ultimately that's something that the government will look at if it nationally it's considered.
What is it? Can you just briefly describe what it is?
So it's so there's actually a federal task force that is considering creating a register for silicosis cases in Australia. That's more of a health. That's health. Will look at that as a possibility. I know that ACT government, and you're probably thinking, well, hang on, WorkSafe, that's ACT government. We are an independent statutory authority, so the decisions about safety and registers and are made by the government. WorkSafe have a role to play in implementing those decisions, but because we're independent, those decisions can be made. We're consulted about them just like you are, so it's a little bit different to the way that New South Wales work. There are considerations of registers where, people can put down, their names are put on a list essentially, and they have to agree to it because there are privacy elements that interact with this, of all of the workers in New South Wales who have contracted silicosis.
The latest question there says over-reporting is not an issue. It is a good thing. It helps with lessons learnt and continuous improvement.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. A question for Infrastructure Canberra. How are you managing RCS,
respirable crystalline silica?
Yep.
Thank you. Risks at larger sites with a number of trades all working on that site?
So I have a fabulous ICBR team here. Can I bring some of my team and get them to help me answer this question?
Absolutely. Come on down.
I've got Cameron and Darren over there.
None of them are coming, Gillian.
Sorry?
None of them.
Cameron and
They're
Darren,
coming.
you've been requested.
And Michaeli, who is a Heads Up Safety, WHS for ICBR.
Okay.
So 3 of our fabulous ICBR team. And I'm going to get them to help me with this question.
You're going to get calling in help. I love it. This is like do you want me to hand them? Did you know you were going to be called up for this? Okay, brilliant.
This is very unscripted. Thank you, Gillian.
That's why we like these breakfasts.
Team player.
So I'm Cameron from, obviously from ICBR, but I work on mostly on the light rail project. So I guess the first part of this answer for me is, yes, ICBR has a key role to play for managing silica exposure. We do engage principal contractors who have got management or control of the site. So they largely have the responsibility for managing their works and overseeing contractors and making sure that they're complying with their safe work method statements. So that's kind of the key part there. We can't get involved and start directing trades on how to do the work, but we will have discussions with the principal contractor if we see that they're not complying with the regulations about silica and silica controls. So we are out on site, myself and Darren, we've got surveillance officers out there as well. We are on the site pretty much every day, watching some of the works and providing advice if we see where the controls that are in place aren't effective or they're not in place, then we'll have conversations around some better ways about doing that work, and then we'll go back to the principal contractor and to kind of talk to them about what we've seen and what some of the controls could be. So it is a delicate balance as a client. We can't direct how that work is done, but we do work very closely with the principal contractor and some of the different trades to provide advice where we see that things aren't in line with the regulation and codes of practice.
Just to add, I would say collaboration. So we do immense work with the principal contractor. We engage with industry groups. We talk about risks that are recurring. We work together. We have safety meetings. The other thing about our other assurance actions is that we review every incident report that comes through. If there's trends or any concerns, we can have the conversation. We can trigger an active cert audit. It's about working together to get a good, safe outcome. We can come along to your risk workshops. We're a participant in this process. We're here to work together to get a good outcome for everyone.
Thank you both. Big round of applause.
Yeah, give him a clap.
Thanks.
Darren, you're coming up next, so...
Matt, get ready.
How do we convince workers that it's not just engineered stone that presents a silica hazard? The fuss over drilling into concrete is overkill.
I'll start an answer to this one. The engineered stone was really in our face because we had 20-year-olds getting silicosis, and it really brought back into everyone's immediate attention this hazard. However, in the background, the 20 years I've been doing this, I've been seeing silicosis cases every year, number of them, and I've seen people, quite severely affected and the impact it had. The difference was it was happening to people often after they'd left the workforce, and it wasn't in everyone's face. An attitude, unfortunately, that I've really seen for a long time is this denial that it happens to other people that we tell ourselves about risks. And if we haven't got first-hand experience, often it's something that doesn't happen. I'm not at risk. I don't have to manage it. So coming back to one of the things I spoke about earlier, awareness and giving people the understanding that this isn't just a could possibly maybe one day be a 1 in 1,000 chance. No, this happens all the time to people that breathe in silica over their work life, and it's something you need to act on now. As a kind of other side note, we still see this as a challenge with smoking. Everyone understands that challenge of smoking, but it catches up with us later on in life, so we do get away with it for a really long time. So I think it's managing those, but pass over.
Yeah, I just want to share a little story about a young person in the ACT who I met in 2022, a 28-year-old who had just been diagnosed with silicosis. It was heartbreaking, and I think we need to continue to tell those stories. I asked this 28-year-old how they were, and they said, physically, I'm doing okay, but my head, I'm not going to say the word, but you know what he said to me. I felt my entire chest crumble when he said that to me, and it sticks with me and will continue to stick with me because he was about to get married and didn't think that he would. And these are the stories every day, day in, day out, that we need to remember when we are working in our workplaces because these stories are real.
Thanks, Jackie. And I wonder, Ewan, you said 1 in 7 workers will contract a respiratory occupational.
That's what we've been seeing so far out of kind of screening 1,200 retired
Are there any predetermining factors of 1 in 7 people who work in that dust, that toxic dust?
They'd on average been working about 30 years in mining. So the reality is this is looking through the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. This is what accumulation of dust over 30 years can do.
And sometimes, depending on the exposure, and Ewan will tell you that if the exposure is a really heavy exposure, then the latency periods for silicosis can be as low as 10 years.
Like that 28-year-old Jackie, how did he contract?
So he'd been working in the engineering stone industry really since he left school.
And I know we've banned engineered stone into Australia, but there's I understand quite a black market for engineered stone coming into Australia still. How do we manage that?
So WorkSafe and heads of regulators around the country and Safe Work Australia get notified when there is a product that contains silica being brought into the country and is mislabelled.
Yeah. How do we convince? Sorry, that's that question there. But if asbestos had been around since 1924 and problems were found in 1930s, why did it take so long to act on the problem? Was it the asbestos or the silica in the 1920s in the building of Sydney and the sandstone and the construction then?
So I think you need to kind of keep in perspective it was 1926 that there was an act enabled the silicosis that allowed the silicosis board to be established. So that took a building of evidence and people advocating for that. So we're talking much earlier for silicosis. In terms of some of the New South Wales legislation in 1942, it then included asbestos diseases. We then look that it's almost 30-something years before we got rid of asbestos from manufacturing and building materials. These things take time. Looking at the engineered stone, we're probably looking at 7 or 8 years from this huge influx of diseases and recognising that it's causing severe problems before we turned it into legislation. So there's a lag between the healthcare. I think with the silica and the engineered stone, that's probably the kind of quickest turnaround we've had because we're probably at an era where we're able to diagnose and attribute, and the causality was much easier to establish. Certainly, I've had someone I know at work, James Hardy, that did all their health screening, and they were doing health screening through the 1960s. And this is someone that just worked at the factory providing the health services for the workers, and he ended up having asbestos disease. So having an understanding that something's a risk and having an understanding of the likelihood of the consequence are other layers to it. And I think that's where we, take time. It takes time to understand just what is the likelihood, what is the consequence, and then we see action and legislation passed.
And over time, we've gotten better at passing legislation to protect people in workplaces, and our regulations have improved. Our understanding of safety has improved. And I just want to go back to that 28-year-old, because what I want to say about that 28-year-old is when I met them, they worked in a workplace that had all of the necessary controls in place to protect them from exposure to respirable crystalline silica, but had worked prior to that in a number of other businesses, and so they had been developing over the course of their career the disease, and when they were finally working in a workplace that was looking after them, that's when the disease came out, because that workplace was conducting the health monitoring and was doing testing in their workplace and all of the things that they needed
From a
to do.
compensation perspective, how does that play out?
Yeah, it's shocking. Because it's where the worker lands, and when the disease is diagnosed, it's that employer that then becomes responsible for the disease.
Gee.
So when our workers come into our workplace, we do standard health monitoring for all of them.
At the beginning, when they start,
Yeah.
so you know what the pre-existing condition.
Because you actually, with silicosis and asbestos diseases, you actually can't track where they contracted the disease. It's absolutely impossible.
Do you find much challenge in that, Ewan, when you do screening and findings?
Yeah, definitely. And coming back to, most people have got this combined mix of exposures from different roles in different workplaces, doing different tasks. So kind of narrowing it down to, this specific task on that day, no, that's not possible. It's generally, it's infrequently that you get someone that comes through and it's like, I was a miner at ABC mine for 30 years and that's the only place I did, and I worked on the longwall and that was it. So most of the time you're looking at a bunch of exposures that have likely all contributed to it.
Someone, I noticed it's gone, but someone said, how can you pay $2,000 for a vac and have only $1,000 back? The expense factor for compliance, I notice here in the little pocket guide, and Gillian's got it in her pocket already, model student, has a licensed asbestos assessor identified whether asbestos is present? Have you engaged a licensed asbestos removalist? Do some of those costs, such as extraction vacuums and getting all those licensed providers to come and remove the asbestos, play into the non-compliance?
It can, but and it won't surprise any of you to hear me say it shouldn't.
Does it? If you're in the industry, I'd love to know if it does.
When we look at court cases in relation to work health and safety, and what the court considers in relation to what is reasonably practicable, the costs must be so prohibitive that ultimately it's going to result in such a deficit in your business that for it to be taken into consideration. So we need to look at what the courts are saying, and what the courts are saying is that costs in relation to a worker being injured are only a very small part of the consideration.
What are the main challenges, the current main challenges, with industry-wide compliance for silica in the ACT? I might ask you, Gillian, because you would you see? Do you want to answer that, or Darren, you're up.
Darren's coming up.
I can give. Look,
I think Jackie's got to have a first go, and then I'll add to it. How's that?
Well, as I think I'll get mad up. No. Look, there are there are a number of challenges. Ewan's already spoken about the education, the understanding, the awareness, and we're trying to work through that. We're also, your pocket guide has got things in there about silica and what the expectations are. It can be about, and when I was out at the safety fair, I was speaking with one of my inspectors who were out there yesterday, and they were saying that one of the questions that they often get from PCBUs when they're talking about silica is, we don't know what tools are available. Can you tell us? So they're not even thinking about costs. They just want to know what they can get to assist them to comply. Now, unfortunately for us at WorkSafe, we can't go out and say, oh, this company produces this and this company produces, this. But what we're looking at doing is putting out some information on the sorts of things that are available to assist you. But there are even some really low-cost options that are amazing. You can, if you're drilling a hole, let's say in a tile wall, one of the cheapest ways of using wet suppression is to drill a hole through one of those cups that those coffee cups that I can see sitting on some of the tables. Fill it up with shaving cream and use your drill bit through the cup. And the cup captures the silica within the shaving cream. So there are so many things available, and what I would say is just get onto those websites, have a look, or get someone in your team to have a look at what's available, because there are some amazing things out there when it comes to silica dust suppression. And in fact, Europe have been doing this for years. Some of the stuff that we're now seeing in Australia has been in Europe for 20, 30 years. So have a look at what's out there.
I've got so many follow-up questions about that shaving cream in a cup. I don't know about anyone
That's
else.
amazing.
You can't use the shaving cream after
Or how many times you have
you've
to change it, or is it... anyone like to add anything to that from your experiences for other main challenges on site, or if anyone works on sites, if you wanted to add it to the Slido, I'd be keen to hear.
Maybe just one observation from myself is, these wet dust extraction, respiratory protection solutions, they're not new as a kind of solution. I think one of the kind of big failings is recognising when we should be using one of those solutions.
And that's where your risk management comes into place, right?
And the awareness part, coming back to that awareness, when we're aware of that there's a hazard, then we can start managing it. But if we don't recognise the hazard to start with...
For something like the quarry, we're looking at Royalla Quarry at the moment and the dust that will be generated if that goes ahead. How do you manage something in a big construction site like that? Is it...
First one, water.
Just water, just constant spraying.
First start.
And also you'd have to educate the community presumably about what is toxic dust and what's just dust.
In terms of a quarry site, you can also have jet sprays and fog sprays, and there are chemical stuff added in. There are a bunch of suppressants that mine sites and quarries use to minimise that dust. I think, a lot of mine sites too also alleviate communities nearby will do monitoring on their borders so that they understand what the kind of exposure is going across. In saying that, I know places like Singleton in New South Wales in the Hunter, I know places like Moranbah, which is just surrounded by coal mines. Whatever way the wind blows, the community is covered with coal dust. So it is a challenge across all of the country, particularly when you've got mines, quarries next to populations.
If there are multiple
I'm going to get Darren up to answer this question. If he's comfortable to, I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable. Here he is. He's coming.
Thanks, Darren.
Give him a clap.
Big round of applause for Darren.
Hi,
as he
Darren.
comes down.
Everyone in the construction industry knows Darren.
I do now. Look, the challenges that we're experiencing out there with other trades in the area or working with trades is one, as you alluded to, is identify whether or not you have silica in the product. Anything over 1%, obviously we've got to start risk assessing. There's a great risk assessment process on in the Code of Practice ACT WorkSafe site, which realistically goes down the 1+1+1. So, and that's based on the hierarchy of control, engineering, etc. But as you also said, water, if you can't use water, then use dust extraction of some sort, some engineering control that way, as well as, and these are one of the challenges that we're having in the industry at the moment, is the wearing of PPE, and that they are fit tested, and workers with stubble. You know, we walk onto the site and identify that there's a worker that's got all the controls in place, but he's got a 3-day growth. So the actual PPE that he's relying on as a secondary measure, if there is an exposure or the engineering control doesn't work, is not going to work for that worker either. So the other issue that we're also identifying is working, and this is on the light rail, for example, working near public. So even though we are using water, there has been recordings of silica levels being over and above 0.05. However, it's controlled environment. So in other words, that we're excluded away from the public area. We've got barriers up, we've got extractions in place, workers are wearing PPE, etc. So these are the things you've got to consider when we talk about working next to other trades as well, because the activities that you're undertaking can impact on them. So you need to be mindful and set up your exclusion zones, put your signage up, all those other control measures.
Thank you for clarifying that, Darren, because I was started to have a little bit of a quick heartbeat for a minute.
It was a controlled environment, so there was no actual exposure to the workers and or the public, and that's what we do. And to sort of get onto the back of what Cameron and Michaela were saying, is that our responsibility at ICBR is to make contractors aware of the controls and the requirements out there in the field. We do active certification audits, which also goes into high-risk construction work for safe work method statements, making sure that there's procedures and there's processes in play that they're following and complying with as per the Code of Practice and legislation.
Darren.
She'll never ask me up here again.
Give us that back, right. Thank you, Darren. And I think you said, I'll give you the microphone back. Gillian, I think you did say that you can do better. Like in your talk, you said, I don't want to say this, you're nervous, but you can always do better.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to do is show that we've got amazing people in Infrastructure Canberra, and we know what we're doing, and we're trying to do better every day. So well done, Cameron, Darren,
and we all have
Wylie.
hazards in our workplace.
We do.
That's an absolute example of a hazard in the workplace that's been controlled. And that's what the work health and safety legislation is about, because every workplace has hazards.
Okay, we're nearly there. We're going to wrap it up. So rapid fire questions, very short answers. Any questions we didn't get answers to today, we'll answer them online. The WorkSafe team will be busy answering those, so please check back. Multiple trades working on a site, does everyone need to have their own assessment done?
No, but what you do need to do is to ensure that there is one on the site. So if you go into your pocket guide, it talks about joint duties on construction sites, and it'll give you some hints for you to have a longer answer to that question. But there are joint duties. You do have a joint duty with other PCBUs on the site. In relation to the resources, we have just released a small business checklist, which has been, we released it a while ago, but we've just released it in 4 4 different languages. It's been translated. That's also available on our website, and I know our inspectors have been going around and handing those out as part of Safe Work Month. Can we expect ACT government to fully fund courses? That's a question for ACT government and
The Minister.
and I would say probably not. Because it is the obligation of the PCBU to provide a safe workplace and to provide training and to do all of those things that you're required to do as a PCBU. How can you engage with us with WorkSafe other than through compliance? We do lots of engagement activities such as this one, and I would say get onto our subscription list and you will be emailed all of the things that we do and how you can engage with us.
And listen to the podcasts.
Listen to the podcasts. And we've just hit 500 listens, so we're pretty happy about that.
Fantastic. And any of those other questions, I think, any quick hits for anyone else?
Is there a safe level of silica? So we've got these work exposure limits that have been halved over recent years. At the moment, there's concern that still may not be enough to prevent all disease. So one thing I kind of encourage industry is to aim for as low as reasonably practical, not to kind of go, yep, great, we're at 0.049, we're done, to keep working on solutions to minimise that dust. And it kind of highlights, even if we've got those low levels, how important PPE is, because that still might be a level that's too high and may cause disease in the long term, but we're just not going to know for quite a while on that. And I think, second to add to this, at the moment the technology, Australia industry-wide, to be able to monitor at lower levels, I don't believe is there yet.
Thank you all for your expertise and sharing it so candidly with us this morning. Before we go, one last thing from each of you, the drum that you beat loudly that you want people to go away with this morning. Jackie?
I say it all the time, it's no surprise to you. The risk management framework is a tried and tested framework and it works. So please use it.
Thanks, Jackie.
Great to see so many people engaged in silica. I think the key is the kind of culture and the safety culture that gets set. So to see such a great turnout is very promising.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and probably just thanks to WorkSafe ACT for keeping this conversation going, keeping these breakfasts. Well done, Jackie. You are outstanding. So thank you.
And thank you all, Ewan, Gillian and Jackie Agius, and the WorkSafe team for bringing these breakfasts to you over the year, the last couple of years. And you all coming out early this morning for breakfast. Thank you. It's been fascinating. And thanks for all the work you do out there. Big round of applause for you all, and go and enjoy your day.